Hi everybody, Jasmine here. Okay, I'm finally making this video with the big announcement. I've been trying to make this video for the past, week and things have just all gotten in the way, but I'm finally here to tell you the big secret project I've been working on that I'm so thrilled to announce. But before I do that, for anyone who hasn't been following along for a little while, sort of with my life and work, my name's Jasmine Sturr. I actually just had a birthday. I just turned 25 years old. And I have now had Parkinson's disease for almost 11 years. I have juvenile onset Parkinson's disease, and I started having serious symptoms when I was about 14. And I got my diagnosis in college. I had brain surgery in college. I went to college to study chemistry. And I had always had my heart set on being either a doctor or working in a research field. Both interested me in different ways. And I had such an intensive experience with the patient community that I really thought medicine was the way to go. I've actually now applied to med school twice. I applied to med school 2 months after having brain surgery, which is a terrible idea, by the way. It was my senior year of college, and a couple months into college, it became really clear I needed to take a break from my health. And so I took a break from my health, and I had another job lined up, and that year, towards the end of by the time I was finishing up my chemistry degree in 2016, my health just crashed and it hit a really low point. So when I graduated, I was definitely the sickest I've been. And I started IV nutrition right after, related to Parkinson's. It's a secondary to Parkinson's issue called gastroparesis and chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction, which is a whole other thing I don't really need to explain right now. But I went home to get healthy. And in going home to get healthy, I ended up accidentally starting a career in research, activism, and advocacy, and in citizen science and N of 1 research, which I'll explain a little bit more about what that all means as I continue to sort of explain this development and how I got to this announcement that I'm sorry I haven't said yet, but there's just a lot of backstory here. So I accidentally became an activist. I gave a talk. It was put on by my dear friend Sarah Regar from Sweden. Hi Sarah. Thank you for everything. This all of my career would not have been possible without Sarah. And I will never be thankful enough for that. And the work we do together continuing that has continued from that initial collaboration is directly what has brought us here today. So, okay. That was that project. I was a chemistry major without a lab. I watched all of my friends go to graduate school and medical school, and everyone else was out there living their lives, and I was home trying to stay alive. And so I started doing some of my own research on my own health. My body became my laboratory, and my kitchen became my investigative bench. And I started doing a bunch of research and reading, and I found solutions that my doctors weren't coming up with for myself. And Sarah was organizing a talk at World Parkinson's in 2016, which was held in Portland, Oregon, which I was actually planning on attending. My dad and I were driving up. And Sarah, I had shared this talk, this stuff I was working on about 10 days before World Parkinson's. And Sarah had messaged 22-year-old me saying, hey, actually not even 22-year-old yet, a couple months shy, saying, hey, Jasmine, I really liked your work. I want you to talk at the Quantified Self for Parkinson's talk that I'm organizing the day before World Parkinson's begins. That's sort of a World Parkinson's adjacent talk. And so I said yes, and it was the best thing I've ever said yes to ever, because I was able to meet other people who had science backgrounds and who had Parkinson's, who had also essentially treated their health and their lives like their case study and their experiment. And it opened up this whole new world for me that I had thought I had lost. And so over the next couple of years, I stayed with it. We actually, based on my talk, we designed a N of 1 experiment, which is N of 1 means in science an N is like your population group that you're studying, and so an N of 1 meaning population of 1 you're studying yourself. So that's what N of 1 science means. Citizen science is when patients come together to influence research or to do research themselves. And so that's what we did. We carried out a citizen science project. We designed a project to be done at World Parkinson's, and we were able to actually get a panel of reviewers, and we published an article in a scientific journal. And I had I come close a couple times in my undergraduate career to publishing, but I had I'd had posters and everything, but I hadn't had a first authored paper. And having a first authored paper was like the most exciting thing to ever happen to me at that point. Working on this and becoming a health advocate, I started working with Stanford Medicine X. In 2018, I actually got to go up to Stanford to be their e-patient coordinator for the conference, for one of the conferences. And I got to go teach at Stanford to talk to students who were going into the medical field. And I've gotten to do all these incredible things, and I really thought all of that was telling me to go be a doctor. I had this driving passion, and I was so excited. I thought that I would take everything that I've learned, because when I had growing up sick, growing up with this mystery diagnosis that took years to diagnose, every misdiagnosis I had impacted the way I feel about the healthcare field, the way I see it, the way I experienced it. Every one of those experiences felt like it was telling me to go and take care of patients. That, my calling was to go live my life in that way, to be a physician who did things differently. And so this year, I decided to go for it again. And in June 1st, 2019, I submitted an application once again to medical school. And then the summer happened, and I had an amazing summer. An amazing and an awful summer. I traveled to Stanford twice this summer to teach at the Stanford Anesthesia Summer Institute for high school and college students who are entering the medical field. And I had an amazing time doing that. And I also had a stomach surgery between those two that actually sort of kind of began my career again in a different way I wasn't expecting. They ended up using a tube that I was allergic to. I had a G-tube surgery that I was allergic to. And you can't really mess with a stoma that's that new, because the stoma can not adhere, and you could end up with so your stomach contents seeping into your abdomen and giving serious... It's a very, very serious... People have died from stomas not adhering and causing peritoneal sepsis. And even though my tube was giving me severe allergic symptoms to a point where I was like really struggling to breathe, we ended up suppressing my immune system for the month with some really intense steroids. And it was a really manic month. Which, listening to this probably sounds like it would be kind of normal for me, and it is a little bit normal for me. I think Parkinson's, with your sleep, the way it affects your sleep cycle, makes you a little bit manic, but I had so much energy from the prednisone and no energy from my body. And so one day at 3 a.m., I was sitting awake, and what I always end up doing at 3 a.m. whenever my body is keeping me awake is I just read. And I go down a rabbit hole of science, and I learn about a ton of really interesting things. Everything from diseases to climate science to rockets to space to, random historical bits. I like to learn in the middle of the night when my body is not letting me, so I figured my brain might as well be happy. And I was sitting there, and sometimes I just sit there and I think. And I was thinking about my work that I had done in the past and that I had been doing. And I was thinking about Parkinson's research and what I felt was missing in Parkinson's research, and it hit me. So over the past couple years, we've done some different experiments. And I've designed quite a few experiments, but none of them have completely come to fruition in the way I wanted them to, the way that I want to publish them as. And that's because something was missing to all of them. And the thing that was missing to all of them is the idea I have here in this backpack. That's the big announcement that I have for you now. So let's start with this. I'm not going to med school. And I'm telling you that with a smile on my face because I am so relieved. I am so relieved. And the only reason, see, I think, you know, when people who I've told this idea to that I'm gonna do instead, nobody's surprised. And at first that kind of bothered me a little bit, like, hey, like, you know, to appreciate the faith, guys. Glad you all didn't think I was gonna go to med school. But I'm gonna take that as a compliment that they all thought I was gonna do something that would be more impactful, that would be more, in a more impactful way to use my life and my time here. Because I'm at a really rough stage in Parkinson's right now, where I've had it so long, and managing symptoms a lot. And I'm at a point where I feel my body slowing down. I'm at a point where the average lifespan of somebody with Parkinson's after symptom onset is 16 years, and I'm at 11, I mean. So I have, you know, I don't want to only live for 5 more years. I would like to pass 30. I'd like to pass 40, you know, maybe even 50s. Who knows? Maybe I'll even grow old. But I have to, in order to grow old, or in order to grow older than a tragically short time, I need to take care of my body. And pushing it through medical school is not taking care of my body. And it's not respecting my body and its limitations and appreciating it for what it can do. And I think I had to come to this conclusion because I had to realize that me leaving medical school behind was not me saying that I wasn't smart enough to do it or that I couldn't have done it if I really tried, but me choosing to be happy and me choosing to live and me choosing to want to live and to continue to be happy and to want to live. I'm actually at a really good place in life. I'm really happy. Like, I'm really, really enjoying my mid-20s. I'm rocking it. I have happiness and life and love, and I'm excited about the future. For kind of the first time in a little while. For the past couple years, the future has kind of been a thing I like to dream about, but a dream was never really going to be a reality. And so now I really do think that if I take care of my body, I can make it last a long time. And I can keep going. And I want to do that. So I need to stop living that way and stop pushing myself and instead focus my energy and live with intent. Living with intent is something that's very important to me. Because when you have limited energy, you know, sometimes I see other, you know, young, healthy people, and I try to, like, comprehend what energy is like, and it's just, I've been sick now for so long, I can't comprehend a normal level of energy, and not planning every aspect of my day around, like, how I feel, and, like, what's gonna physically work. Heck, I've had days with Parkinson's, I can't move. Also, a lot of my time, honestly, with Parkinson's is laying in bed, kind of reclining. And I'm also at a point where I can say it's okay if I spend 60-70% of my time in bed. It's not okay if I do that if I'm a physician, or if I'm trying to go to med school, because I'm not going to be the student I wanted to be with my body the way it is. And that's only going to be frustrating. And then the most heartbreaking thing I could ever see happening to me would be to get through medical school and get into this job. I thought I was going to be a primary care physician, and I was going to work in an underserved area in the inner city, and I was going to pass on this, like, radical love for healthcare and for this idea that every human being deserves compassionate care. And that, like, that is where my experience has taken me. And, like, I thought about loving this job every day and how amazing that would be. And I can't imagine loving it for a year and then having it all taken away from me. I can't imagine wanting to love it so bad but being so tired that I hate it. I can't imagine loving my job but being so exhausted that nobody else in my life gets any of my energy. that nobody else in my life gets any part of me that isn't everything I'm pouring into this, to do it for a couple years, only to satisfy myself, really. Even if I am doing it for a good reason, it's still not for the right ones. And so I'm letting go. And it feels amazing because I have this incredible idea that I came up with at 3 a.m. on prednisone in the middle of July that is a piece of the Parkinson's research puzzle that I feel is vitally missing, and I am in the unique capacity to do it. And that is my project that I'm announcing. This project is going to be my career. This is going to be the mark that I make on Parkinson's research, and this is going to be huge. And I am going to follow it as long as it takes me, as far as it takes me, and really the possibilities are endless, because once we build up our initial... Okay, this makes no sense unless I just explain to you the project. So without further ado, also, this is a space backpack. I got at Target to hold my stuff for this project. It's really soft, and it's got those little mermaid sequins, and I just thought it, and this little star keychain just drew to me, and I thought, you know, this is like a dream bag. This is exactly what needs to house this project. You know, and I got a floral notepad to take notes in, but I introduced you the lab notebook of the Parkinson's Phenome project, of which I've named myself the principal investigator, because everybody in science wants to be the principal primary investigator of a research project. Like, that is sort of when you've made it in science. And since I'm essentially forging my own path with this, I've realized that a traditional career is never going to work for me. A traditional career, even if I went to grad school for research, I can't hold a 9 to 5 because half the time I'm up at 2 in the morning and the other half the time I sleep for 36 hours in a row, and then I'm up for 4 days. It's completely sporadic. And what I can do is I can work from my bed. And I have because of my experience and because of the things I've done in the past couple of years and the experience that I've lived combined with the education that I've had and the passions that I have, and the connections that I've made, makes me the person who can do this project. So what's a phenome? A genome in biology is essentially a database of all of the gene pairs, all of the genetic bases, all of the codes that make you is your genome. So a genotype is something that you express because you have a gene. I have blue eyes. Actually, I have green eyes. I have green eyes because I have a gene for green eyes. A phenotype in biology is sort of a group of... it doesn't so much work as well with this experiment, or with the example. A phenotype is essentially a characteristic that is described of a group, that isn't necessarily associated with... I mean, a lot of times phenotypes do end up associating with genes, but a phenotype can also just be separate from that. And Parkinson's. And also, I wrote this in my horrible handwriting, and I did this took me hours, because I wanted it to be mine. Because in science, you get a very standard lab notebook, and as long as I keep the lab notes to laboratory things, no one cares what the outside of my notebook looks, except for me. So there you go. I have a little date for when I established the nonprofit. Oh, the nonprofit. I should tell you about that. I'm sorry, I'm getting really ahead of myself. Okay, so I have this research idea I want to do. And I want to establish a nonprofit so that I have the funding to do it and the funding to pay contributors. And okay, once again, that is getting ahead of myself. Okay, it took me 19 minutes and 20 seconds to just tell you what the friggin' project is. I'm gonna phenotype Parkinson's. Okay, so that sounded really crazy, I'm sorry. Parkinson's is a huge umbrella of diseases that all have to do with damage to the substantia nigra of your brain. And Parkinson's has so many different symptoms. At one point, I just tried to list as many as I could and counted, and I got 30, or close to 30. different symptoms. And the thing about Parkinson's is that everybody who has Parkinson's, they call Parkinson's a snowflake disease because no one who has Parkinson's really looks like another person who has Parkinson's. Which makes, for a huge array of presentations, which is why it can be hard to diagnose. Because a lot of people think of Parkinson's as a shaky, stumped-over old man. I am a stumped-over, the very mild tremor, quite muscly tight 25-year-old woman who has pretty much advanced stage Parkinson's disease. So I fit basically none of the stereotypes, which is why I love going into rooms and saying of health in the healthcare sphere and saying I have Parkinson's, because I love challenging that narrative, because that keeps people from being diagnosed. That's a whole nother tangent, I'm sorry. Back to the phenome. So there's all these different things that can happen in Parkinson's. So many different symptoms and different presentations. But we in the community are seeing patterns that scientific research is not. Now, why is that important? So we in the community see that different symptoms tend to clump together in different populations, and we can pretty much identify them. But science isn't studying this. Science is studying Parkinson's, the umbrella, as a whole. All however many diseases are within this umbrella are all being studied as one disease because they have the same underlying pathology. But they might have different mechanisms. And those differences are important because when you think about clinical trials, we have clinical trials that are failing because they're only working for some people and not the other. And I'm willing to bet that if you did an analysis of those clinical trials that have failed that were working for some people and not the other, you would see phenotypic similarities between those two. But first, before we can even get into that kind of research, nobody has a database of Parkinson's. Which, when I explain this project, I think this is the one thing that really makes people say, what? And this is the part that makes me say, what? This is insane. This is insane is not the right word. This is horrible. Honestly, we should all be outraged that Parkinson's does not have in one place that is accessible to both patients and researchers alike a list, a compilation of every symptom that can happen in Parkinson's. And that is my first thing. That is what I want to do. That is the phenome. I want to characterize Parkinson's. I want to make a list of everything that is Parkinson's, and I want to do that combining accepted scientific information, clinical data, but also with qualitative data from the community that is completely ignored in the clinical world and in the academic world of Parkinson's. And that is why this project can only be done by somebody who both has collegiate science training and who can speak and dialogue in the world of Parkinson's science, who can keep up with researchers, but also understands what it's like to be a patient and is also in the patient community, who has hundreds of friends who I literally see with these things, who I've identified over the years of being in the patient community. It's something that only a couple of us can do. And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with the help of the other couple people who can do it. And I've already talked to them, and I'm really excited. And there's a couple more, not all of them, there's a couple more I'm still hitting up, who I'd love to collaborate with. So let's talk about how I do this project. So I am an underemployed 25-year-old. Like most millennials, I kind of side hustle and I do a bunch of random things to survive. And health advocacy has brought me some solid gigs, but nothing that really pays the bills. Also about to be kicked off my parents' insurance next year, so gotta get a job so I can live. But I want to do research, and I think this research is important. And so the only way that I'm going to be able to get to do my research and eat, well, I don't eat, pay for my infusions, pay for, and pay the bills and keep a roof over my head, the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to start something totally new and to do it my own way. And so I'm starting a nonprofit. I am starting the Parkinson's Phenome, the 501c nonprofit. And I'm so excited. I have it all budgeted out. I thought about grants. And let me explain to you why I'm not going to go with a grant. So, grants have strings. And grants I will absolutely be applying for down the line. for the project, for different side projects, for different ventures. For example, if I want to do a venture into a certain subtype of, to classifying a certain subtype of Parkinson's that I can identify once I have this whole thing set up, yeah, I would absolutely get a grant for that. I have like about 10 or 12 different ideas of things I would really like to do as sub-projects. That'd be perfect for grants down the line. But for the first base work, for me to be able to properly set the foundation for a ton of science that can be done in the future, for a ton of different things, because it's not only my work that I want to come from this. I want the Phenome to create a bunch of different science, and I want the Phenome to become a basis for studying Parkinson's, because right now there is not a basis of what Parkinson's even is, and that should bother us all. So I'm going to create it, but this is how I'm going to do it. So I have set a fund rate. We're going to do it crowdfunding style, and we're gonna take this campaign out, and I'm gonna see how it does in the 21st century. So when you could be giving to a big name foundation, when you're hosting a Parkinson's fundraiser, or making a small personal donation, whether it's everything from $1 to however many, it's all going to this project that's going to be a fair, equitable, and accessible project. To the world, a very open and no secrets kind of project. My idea with this project is that my work is not just my work. My work for this project is the world's work. That's what I want this to be. I want everything that is done for the Phenome to be for Parkinson's. And by Parkinson's, I mean people with Parkinson's, I mean Parkinson's researchers, I mean neurologists, anyone in the healthcare field, patient, caregivers, anyone has any connection to Parkinson's. I want this to be accessible to on different levels. I want researchers to be able to consult the Phenome for an accurate picture of Parkinson's when they're designing their studies. And I want patients to go to the Phenome so that they can look at all the different things that can happen. So if something is going on that's really confusing and they can't figure out what it is, maybe something in the Phenome will explain, okay, well, this is a possibility. I can at least bring it up to my doc and they can see if, if they think this is also going on with me. Because if you're just relying on your doctor to be the only one who's providing any kind of input like that, I mean, that's how it should be, that your doctor should be able to, but we all know from healthcare, how many times does that really happen? I can count how many times it's happened for me. But, so that's where I'm at with this. So, the project is going to be enough. My goal is to crowdfund $100,000, and half of that will go to being my salary, so that I can devote, starting out, a full year to developing this, to working 40 hours a week on building this Phenome on a publicly accessible platform, to building a website that has a bunch of security built into it, so that later on, because it's data related to health, that gets protected later on. Building this website in a way that's accessible, collaborating with people is a huge, huge thing, is what I want the other half of that fund to have money aside for, is because I want to pay people with Parkinson's to collaborate with me. I want to pay the community for their value, because so often in clinical research we're expected to just volunteer because it's good for us in the long run, because we have Parkinson's and we should want to see what comes out of it. And yeah, but I also want people who are there because they're so interested in it that they're devoting a chunk of their time. And time is money. That they could be doing something else. I want them to feel that value, that their work is not just for this project. It's also because that their work is important to the scientific research community, because it is, and our voices have not been valued in the scientific research community, and epidemiological studies have failed us so long that if I want to take it back, I need to take it back in the most equitable and forward way possible. So that is why once I'm working on all the paperwork right now. I'm figuring out my board of directors. I'm getting together all the things that I need, and I'm going to put in the paperwork. And so hopefully in a couple of months, I will actually have this all ready to go. And in the meantime, I'm going to figure out some different collab works, work on different ideas, and get all the things kind of ready, so that once we're ready to go, we can hit the ground running and we can start developing this. And I am so beyond excited to get to update this as I go on, and to get to share this journey with the community that has really given me so much. Like, I'm not being emotional here. But really, the Parkinson's community is just... I don't know what I would have done without you guys. Like, to everyone with Parkinson's listening to this right now, thank you. Thank you for showing me that just because my scientific journey is totally different than I ever imagined, and is not in any way relatable to what I thought I'd be doing and to what my peers are doing, to what I think a lot of times society says I should be doing, at least in my own head, that it's needed and valuable. Thank you for a lot of people in Parkinson's community kind of jokingly call me the Parkinson's little sister, because I'm like 20 years younger than everybody, and I love that. I want you to all know that, like, that sort of like honorary title warms my heart so much, and this is all because the Parkinson's community is amazing. The Parkinson's community is so active and so eager and so willing that the fact that this hasn't done kind of breaks my heart. This community is ready to jump at the base hat to put themselves in to do something for the betterment of research. And I'm really excited to go along this journey with this community that's just been so wonderful, because we're going to create something amazing. And honestly, this kind of thing hasn't really been done in a lot of situations. And the way epidemiological research is done around diseases, to a person with a disease who they're failing, doesn't make any sense. So, thanks for following along and changing the world with me. I can't wait to update future. So, stay tuned. When I got the paperwork up, and we'll have the ground running, and I'll have some stuff started to start announcing what we're doing, and I'm so excited I get to finally tell you. I hate keeping secrets. Not being able to just announce to people what I was doing, and to share my joy, as much as I love the teaser posts. Sorry. I've just really wanted this moment, and living in it is amazing. So, thank you. For now, that's the Phenome. I can't wait.